God made us all in his image. There is not one human being that is like another human being. Not one. Even identical twins are very different. You know, we have different fingerprints, different voices, different hair. I mean, it's different. We're all different. And so to compare yourself to someone else and, you know, like you talked about running that race, right? You know, we all need to run our own race. And I think that if we can all remind ourselves that this is our race, this is my race, I'm going to be the best version that God wanted me to be instead of trying to compare to other people. Because I think what happens is, and well, it's not a think, I know what happens is when you start comparing and your focus is on what other people are doing, or your focus is on what other people have and what you don't have, it is impossible for you to stay intentional and stay focused on what you need to be and what you need to do to get to that better version of you.
I have the same kind of person. When I got into real estate at RE/MAX Professionals at our King Carroll office, there's an agent there by the name of Eva Stottlemyre who is an absolute monster in this industry. She's, I think, #1 in the state for like the 4th year in a row. And a lot of people are intimidated by her, and I love her. She's amazing. There's never been a second where she intimidated me or anything like that, and I've never ever been jealous of what she has, and this could be something that those folks could do if they're falling into the comparison trap. Like when she's slaying it, I think about how awesome of a life she's providing for her kids and the opportunities that they're gonna get because of mom kicking butt. So if you're the type of person who sits there envying what somebody else is getting, try to think about the stuff that they're getting and the blessings that they're gonna be able to share with their loved ones because of it.
So this lesson was huge for me. Thanks for sharing this with us, because that chapter is a life changer. And then also Sean's message as well. Like, I feel like that's something I should probably watch every month just to remind myself, like, hey, maybe my purpose isn't to make $2 million a year. Maybe my purpose is to be an awesome husband. I mean, I know that's my purpose, to be an awesome husband, an awesome dad, an awesome friend. Like, I love my people, and I don't need to make $2 million to love my people. I think one of the things I learned from R4 too, or the RE/MAX conference last week, is all these people that are super successful, they're making $1 million a year, but you don't see behind the curtain where they're spending $700,000 to make $1 million a year. And like, they're just not happy at all in their life, but they're making a ton of money. So I feel like we just need to find our purpose. We need to do our daily gratitudes. And that's something I'm going to start doing. I'm not good at that. I'm good at staying off social media, but I'm going to start with the gratitudes. And I think that envy part inside of me will hopefully start to go away if I do that.
Okay. What's up, guys? Episode 7 here of Burn the Ships podcast. Today we are going to talk about the envy trap. Man, we're going to go all over the place today. I mean, it's going to be from comparison, which is kind of the root of all envy. I'm going to probably talk a little bit about some scripture. I think that all in all, the biggest issue we have in our society today is I think a lot of people lack joy. And I think the reason people lack joy is because of that trap that they find themselves in of comparing themselves to other people. You know, all those just different things that I feel like get you in that rut. And you know, the first thing you do in the morning is you wake up and you grab your phone and you start looking at Instagram and you see what other people are doing. And there's that envy trap, right? There's that comparison trap. And I just think it's bad. So we were going to talk about it today. And as always, I am joined by my dude, Chad Sabalka.
What's up, brother?
Other dude and my brother, Chris Royer. These are our boys, and we're committed to bringing you guys some value. But today is going to be fun, guys. I am looking forward to this conversation. And if there's anyone on the planet that is guilty of comparison, I'm probably one of those guys that's as guilty as all the rest.
I think there's one person who has ever walked the face of this earth who hasn't fallen into envy at some level. One out of the 20 billion humans who have ever been alive. There's only one. Yep. So we've all fallen victim to it. But I'm of the belief that it is something that can be utilized as a tool and can be controlled by those who are strong enough to control it to a point. So that this is, before we got started, we were talking, well, first of all, GT, where did you get this idea for this podcast?
Well, I read that book, the Purpose-Driven Life. To me, honestly, guys, one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. I highly recommend it. And this just happened to be a bonus chapter at the end. Chapter 41 after the 40 days or the 40 chapters of the actual book. And it was called The Envy Trap. And, man, when I read that, it literally was like that big punch right between the eyes. Everything from, just some of the things we just forget. In the commandments, thou shalt not covet. Covet is another word for envy. It's considered one of the 7 deadly sins, right? Mm-hmm. But I just feel like we just live in this world of it, and especially with today, with social media and everybody's highlight reel, and it's just easy to compare, which we know comparison is the root of most all envy. And so, I started talking to you guys about it, and we were like, dude, that's a solid podcast. So here we are. This is what you guys get today.
So this morning I was actually taking the boys to school, and that's where we've talked about it before on here. That's where we have some of our best conversations, is just on car rides. And I was telling my oldest, Julian, was like, hey, what are you guys talking about on your podcast today? And I told him, and I kind of explained to him a little bit about that chapter from Purpose-Driven Life, and talking about, hey, we shouldn't look at other people that have bigger, nicer things than us and be jealous and want those things. And Colton was in there too, and he's like, so we shouldn't want things, or we shouldn't try to get things? And I was like, well, there's a difference between envy and jealousy and comparison and having goals. And so I think there's a fine line in there, like, hey, I've got these goals. I want to make $1 million or whatever your goal is. Having goals is great. Having goals is awesome. Just don't base your goals based on trying to beat somebody else or be like somebody else. And I thought I had to explain that to the boys, because I didn't want them, like, if I just stopped without talking about the difference between the two, they may have thought, well, I don't need to do good things in life because Dad said that was bad. But there's a difference between those two things for sure.
There's a huge difference, and it is a razor blade thin, I think, because if I personally am in not a state of depression, but not feeling like my business is killing it, and I'm working with the two of you guys and Dane Ricker, and you guys are just putting tons of properties under contract, like, frankly, this spring, where Dane's been just smashing it, and I haven't been sitting twiddling my thumbs. I've been working my butt off, and it's now coming in huge form. But when I'm in that place, or even physically, if I'm feeling like I didn't get to the gym this week, or I don't want to go that day, I purposely try to put myself in a state of comparison, but I don't envy. So there is a big difference. So I'll you both have beautiful homes larger than mine. Would I like to have one? Yes. So when I'm getting my butt kicked and feeling like, God, I don't even want to work today, I can use that comparison to drive me. Or if I don't feel like going to the gym, sure, I pull up photos of Chris Bumstead or Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have 2 working legs. Go kick butt. So I do think that using, not envy, because I believe envy is a massive step forward compared to comparison. If you can control the comparison, I don't think it's such a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, because it can be used as a driver. And frankly, even in faith, like if I look at a guy like Sean, our pastor, and his iron core belief, I honestly kind of envy that he has that, because at times I've struggled, and he admits at times he struggled, but having that faith and that trust and that iron will, that is the way, the truth, and the life. And when I'm wavering, that's something I can go back to, or even the two of you. I do believe comparison can be a positive, but it's when it infects your life. If you're in a state of depression and it pushes you lower, then you got to stop. It's like anything in life. If you have too much of it, it's bad for you. Even too much oxygen or vitamin C can kill you. So I do believe having some can be if you're an NFL quarterback, say you're Russell Wilson, and when he got drafted by the Seahawks, you don't think he was looking at Tom Brady? He wasn't looking at Peyton Manning, trying to emulate their skill set, their discipline, their focus? Of course he was. He was absolutely comparing himself to them. But I do not believe he envied them, because envy sends you into a tailspin.
Yeah, I mean the envy piece to me is there's the comparison, there's the being competitive, there's the hey, I want to beat this guy, or this guy's got a great thing going. How do I get that? I don't think there's anything wrong with those things. I think I think there's the big difference in envy and being jealous of those people for doing that, or even celebrating with those people like, man, this is awesome. This is great, but I want to be there too. And how do I get there and whatnot? I think there's just that razor blade line between this is where I want to be and looking at somebody else that's already there and not necessarily, I guess you're not going to envy that person. You're going to be like, hey, man, this guy's killing it. He's great. He's a good dude. I'm happy for him, but I want to be there and having those goals and driven and everything else. And there's that piece that I think is good. And then there's that other piece that I think a lot of people, unfortunately, in the world today, is they see other people's success and they're not happy for them. Mm-hmm. They see other people's success and they're like, yeah, well, why does he get to do that? Why not me? Why is his business better than mine? I'm putting in more effort instead of just being happy for him and trying to figure out how to be a better version of you, or what do I need to do to get there, or where do I need to course correct, or whatever it is. You fall into that trap of why not me? Like, why is God blessing him more than he's blessing me? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's where the problem is.
Yeah, I liked what Sean said, your pastor. I listened to that message, and he said, we're all running our own race, and God has this race designed for us, and it's not anybody else's race. So that's why you shouldn't be comparing yourself to somebody else, because this person might be making $200 or $2 million a year, but they could be miserable. And you look at what's on social media. I think social media is the root of all this comparison stuff we're talking about. We look on there, and even last week I was at the Remax conference in Vegas, and I see all these people that are making so much money, and it's like, why not me? But it's like, man, I live a good life. I'm happy. I got an awesome wife. I got awesome kids. Like, I think God wants us to focus on what we do have and not what other people have that we don't have. And that's obviously what we're talking about today.
I mean, shoot, last week while you were at R4, I was, for lack of a better word, I was envious. You got to rub shoulders with those folks. I was back home, but I was blessed because I had 3 listing appointments and put 2 properties under contract. So I was back here working, which is what I needed to be doing. But yeah, seeing my boys at the golf course and at, what was it, Thomas Rhett and Journey or Foreigner. Yeah. Like, yeah, I wanted to be there. Of course I wanted to be there.
It was a good week for sure.
But I was where I needed to be. I needed to be at home, needed to focus on my wife, needed to focus on my business, be there for my kids. So even though I wasn't there, I'm not going to say envious, because that I do believe envious is like envious is the stage. No, envious is like the stage 4 cancer of comparison, right? So I was mildly jealous. We'll just say that.
We'll call it jealous.
Yeah.
Because he vented to me. He's like, man, here I am grinding my butt off. He goes, and I look on social and Chris is playing golf and hanging out with guys and making connections.
But that's a great place to do. I mean, making connections with those other agents is huge for us, as our business partner can attest to.
Tried to copy his model for a week. Yeah.
It's a good model to copy.
Yeah. Sorry, Garrett.
That's all right. I think one of the biggest, if we're going to, how to snap out of it, or how to course correct when you feel yourself doing that comparison and everything else, I think it all boils down to being able to, all of a sudden identify it, right? And stop yourself, but then go right into a state of gratitude. Because the reality of it is I know there's times when I mean, let's just face it, man. If you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is pick up your phone and start scrolling Facebook, Instagram, and you see, in my case, there's a lot of lenders out there that I have mad respect for that are doing some really cool content, and they're doing, my buddy Gavin's got his Impact 24 coming, and, big, just a big, what is it? Self-help
influence.
Yeah,
I mean, Gavin has a massive influence. He's putting something together awesome.
These speakers and all that stuff, and this is all cool stuff, right? But it's so easy to be like, man, how come I'm not there? Man, you see these guys that are posting, their closings for the month, and they did 10 or 15 closings or whatever, and it's easy to be like, man, how come I'm not there? What's going on? Instead of just being grateful for where you are and what you have. I mean, dude, when we look around, when I look around and I see my house and my wife and my friends and my life and my kids and my church and everything else, it's awesome.
Blessings literally everywhere.
At all.
Yeah.
So I think that, tactic for those people that find themselves in that comparison, that envy trap, whatever. Dude, one thing that I stopped doing that has been key for me is I do not pick up my phone until I'm ready to go to work. Don't. Mm-hmm. I get up, I go do cardio, I watch a positive podcast or watch a church service or something. I come back up, I write in my gratitude journal, I hang out with my wife, we do coffee from 6:30 to 7, and then I get in my office and I start looking at texts and whatnot. I literally just try to lately just stay off of social until I'm starting to do, my comment and like and comment stuff that I do this part of my work. But just getting up that first thing in the morning, grabbing your phone and start surfing. I mean, there's a very high chance that you're going to steal your joy just right out of the chute.
Before you even get up and have a cup of coffee. That is so true. Yeah. And especially, and you're dealing with it now, you're starting to deal with it, and 8 or 10 years I'm going to be dealing with it. If a teenager does that, because we're all pretty mentally strong men, right? We've built our business, we've been married, we have kids, we've been through kind of the grinder of life where you're in your mid to late 20s and you're not getting any sleep because the baby's crying and you barely have enough money to buy ramen and you're worried about this thing and that thing. We've all gotten to the point where I don't know where you guys sit, but if Kylie and I decided, we're not going to work for the next 3 years, we could make it work.
Right.
So we're at a place of massive blessing. But for a teenager in today's, I couldn't imagine it. Getting first thing, waking up, grabbing your phone, and immediately start comparing yourself to the captain of the football team and the cheerleader, or maybe the first chair violinist and you're not, or the guy who gets all the girls. And man, that was hard enough when we would wake up, eat breakfast, drive or walk to school, and then because the comparison's going to happen when you're a teenager, it's wired into you. But at least there was that gap, and then when you got home, there was another gap. There's no gap anymore for teenagers. So if you're a teenager watching this, do yourself the biggest favor in the world. From 8 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning, just stay off Instagram and Facebook. Just stay off of it. If you don't want to put down your phone, fine. You want to text your friends, whatever. Just lock that for that time so that you aren't, the constant comparison is absolutely going to lead to envy. It's like smoking a cigarette. Like I said, envy is the stage 4. Mm-hmm. Comparison is the stage 1. If you're just constantly puffing, you're going to get there whether you want to or not.
Yeah. In that book, I mean, they talk about, God and scripture a lot. I mean, mm-hmm. it's a biblical book. But the biggest thing that I think that people need to understand is God made us all in his image. There is not one human being that is like another human being. Not one. Even identical twins are very different. We have different fingerprints, different voices, different hair, different DNA. I mean, it's different. We're all different. And so to compare yourself to someone else and, like you talked about running that race, right? God, we all need to run our own race. And I think that if we can all remind ourselves that this is our race, this is my race, I'm going to be the best version that God wanted me to be instead of trying to compare to other people. Because I think what happens is, it's not a think, I know what happens is when you start comparing and your focus is on what other people are doing, or your focus is on what other people have and what you don't have, it is impossible for you to stay intentional and stay focused on what you need to be and what you need to do to get to that better version of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you're comparing yourself to other people with the envy part, it's a direct slap to God in the face, because what you're saying to God is, why didn't you make me like that person? Or why am I this way and not that way? And God's like, dude, I made you awesome. Like, I knit you myself and you are a masterpiece. Don't slap me in the face. Like, that's not cool. I think, crap, where was I going? Oh, back to what you said about gratitudes. I love that. That's the best way to get in the best mindset every single morning, is to thank God for what you do have. Thank God for how he made you. Thank God for what he's given you and like where you are, because you're in a better place than a lot of other people. So if you start your day with that gratitude, it's going to make your day awesome. I think Sean talked about that, where one day he woke up and he was like, man, this is going to be an awesome day. God, this day is going to be awesome. And then he opened his phone and he started scrolling and he's like, oh, I'm a freaking loser. And it just destroyed his entire day. So I put my social media on my second page inside a folder. So it's not just on autopilot when I open my phone. It's right there, because it'll destroy your day really quick.
So this is the part where, before we got started, I said I didn't agree with some of the stuff. And this is going to be a little bit deeper than just financial, because that's all we've talked. We've talked a little bit about physical, but financial. Envy is not necessarily envy, but the idea of being perfectly made in God's image is actually the number one struggle I have with faith. Because, and it doesn't have anything to do with me, I have been a blessed, healthy man my whole life. I don't have any debilitating diseases. I don't have cancer. I've rarely get sick. I don't think I've ever broken a bone. I've given myself stitches a couple of times, but that's because I was a boy. So when somebody says God makes everything perfect, but then I look at my wife who has type 1 diabetes. She didn't do anything to her pancreas. Her pancreas just died. Why does she have to deal with a disease that may take her eyesight, may take her life, may take a limb, has made her life infinitely harder? If you go to Children's Hospital and you walk down the cancer unit of a children's hospital, what on earth could a child have done to deserve a tumor in their brain or bones riddled with tumors so that they're so fragile they move and they break? That is probably the number one thing I struggle with when it comes to faith.
Well, what you're talking about, sorry.
But those people envy, and I've seen it firsthand when my wife is sick or low or what have you. The number one envy isn't financial in this world, at least the truest envy. It's the sick being envious of the healthy, especially if it's not something that they did anything to. It's not a smoker. It's not an obese person. It's the 40-year-old who gets early onset Alzheimer's. Like, what did they do to deserve to lose their memory in the middle of their life? It's the 4-year-old who has a heart condition that's going to take them before their 6th birthday. That is the kind of stuff that makes me think, well, if God is omnipresent and all good, how is a 4-year-old with cancer good? So I told you I was going to go deep with it.
We're not going to have an answer for that.
I don't believe any. No. I think Sean could be sitting here with us. I think the Pope could be sitting here with us. I think any human being could be sitting here except for Jesus, and none of us would have a correct answer for it. And that is my biggest struggle with faith sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about our purpose, right? But again, I agree with you. Like, what is the purpose of a 4-year-old getting cancer? Is it more of the purpose or of whatnot of the parents, maybe? So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So, when you look at God's purpose for us and what he wants to get out of us, is it maybe that the parent that lost the 4-year-old that died of cancer went and created, some foundation that affected a lot of other people's lives? That, I do know this. I do know that God has a purpose in everything he does. And I believe that with every ounce of my heart. Was it a purpose for the 4-year-old? That I don't know. I mean, obviously, who would know? But it could have been, the parent that lost their child, and now they're helping other parents cope with the loss of children or whatever. Does that make sense? I
totally.
mean, it's the only answer I can even come up with.
Right.
Yeah. Because
this is a very deep theological conversation that I don't think any of us are equipped to handle. But that is in my heart that I have sat and struggled with that many, 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 many times.
Yeah, I agree with you, Garrett. 100% there's a reason for everything. And yeah, we hate seeing all this suffering in the world. But I mean, I've got a story recently. One of my best friends, as like anti-Christian as you could possibly be, and his mom was saved, his dad was saved. Like, I've been kind of pouring into him and nothing was working. And we all care about his soul. Like, we all want to spend eternity with this guy because he's freaking awesome, but we know we're not going to on the path that he's going down. But his mom got breast cancer recently, and really bad breast cancer. She's had multiple surgeries, chemo, all of that. And he went to church like 2 weeks ago. And we're all just floored. Like, is that what it took to save his soul? And so, yeah, there's always it sucks to see a 4-year-old suffering, but there might be something in the bigger picture that's behind that story. That maybe that 4-year-old who dies from cancer, his dad gets saved because of it, and they get to spend eternity together. So,
Yeah.
Well, and I think that it'd make you dig deep, right? I mean, let's face it, losing a child is like the ultimate of any pain that you could ever imagine, right? I mean, losing my mom was probably the hardest thing I'd ever been through, and still to this day. But I couldn't even imagine, like, I've recently had a friend that lost their daughter. I think she was like 25 or whatever. And I think that the only thing that out of that, like for me, if I was to lose one of my children, I think the biggest thing would be is, God, what are you trying, like, what are you wanting from me out of this? Like, obviously you've taken that person to eternal life and hopefully, you know, they were saved or whatnot, but I would be looking for, where is the lesson for me? What are you wanting from me out of this? Because it would be the only answer, right? Because it's not like, you know, some young child or young adult passing away all of a sudden that there's purpose in that. There has to be something else. Right.
Yeah, like what you said earlier about the foundation. Like, I bet you could not find a single foundation that was started because somebody's life was just great and everything was going good. Like, there was some kind of pain that made them start that foundation, which is, a lot of those foundations have impacted millions and millions of people.
Right.
Or not just speaking to health, but to go back to other comparisons, a child in war-torn Africa, do you think they envy children living in America in a safe, beautiful home like this one with loving, beautiful parents like we are to our kids? Or, you know, the folks in Pyongyang, North Korea, born into circumstances that they can't affect? There's nothing that they did to decide, I'm going to be born under a ruthless dictator who's going to kill my whole family if there's dust on his picture in my house. So not just the health, but also the circumstances of being born into those kind of places, and the fact that we were born where we are is. So yeah, not to go insanely deep,
I can argue that.
Let's hear it.
So I can argue that too. So you say, you know, we've got all these blessings, right? But I think these blessings are also a curse. I mean, you talk about these kids in, you know, I don't know, call it some areas of Africa or whatever, where they don't really have much.
The Congo or Chad,
they don't even have running water, right? But when you see the videos or whatever on TV or whatever, and you see these little kids, those kids appear to be happier than my kids that have everything. So there's that challenge. I mean, there's that.
That's a really good comeback.
I mean, so, you know, because when you say, do they envy us? I would say probably not, because they don't even know what this is. They don't have cell phones. They don't have social media. They don't have all that stuff. They just get up every day and they're just grateful for taking a breath and maybe something as little as some food to eat, or, you know, some clean water. And the reality of it is, you know, every video that I've ever seen of anybody that's ever went on some mission trip in some other country with a bunch of kids, they look like the happiest little kids I've ever seen in my life. My kids are never that happy, right? I mean, I hate to say it, but they're not, and they have everything.
Yeah,
100%.
That
when
is
I went
true.
on a mission trip to Fiji, like, there was so much joy in those kids just because we brought a soccer ball to a dirt lot and we played soccer for 8 hours straight, and they were happier than my kids have ever been playing a stupid video game or, I mean, watching YouTube. Like, that's where they get their happiness, and it's so sad to me. Part of me was like, man, yeah, those kids are blessed that they don't have as much stuff as we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I argue that.
That was a good comeback.
I mean, I say it's both, right? I mean, obviously their lives are super challenging. I mean, not having clean water, having to walk down and, miles to get, tubs of decent water, whatever it is. I mean, that life's hard. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, those kids and those people always seem to have a little more joy than people here that I think take it all for granted. So
yeah, good comeback.
So when we're talking about envy and comparison, my least favorite saying in the entire world is "must be nice." And when people see some small successes I have on social media or whatever, and I haven't seen them for a couple months, they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, must be nice." Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
our industry is rife with envy.
Oh, so much.
All the time. I don't think any of us really have it. I think that we all control that, like I said at the beginning, control that comparison. But yeah, and it eats a lot of people alive. It turns them into alcoholics. It makes them bad husbands and wives because they are constantly envious of the small victories that everybody else is having. Our business is a public one, and we do post our successes on social media because, let's face it, people want to work with people who know what they're doing. And if you have lots of successes, people are going to say, okay, maybe I should work with Garrett. He's clearly closed a ton of loans. He's going to take care of me. So, but the agents and the lenders who constantly compare themselves to everybody else, you can tell that that's what they do. And they get to the point where they're not afraid to tell you that, must be nice. You had another close. Must be nice. I want.
Yeah, you didn't see
and
the
that just
calls.
Sucks. They want to suck the joy out of you and try to get some piece of it.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. And that is the comparison trap that leads to envy completely.
100%. I mean, there's been, I look in our industry, right? It always seems like there's a lot of flash in our industry. Mm-hmm. And, there's those that have been extremely successful that are maybe a little more frugal. Then there's those that are successful and they show it, right? They flaunt it. For me personally, I've always been very, I think, reserved in what my abilities were. Like, I love cars, right? And there's, I love cars my whole life. My dad loved cars. And I love everything from exotic cars to muscle cars, which are my favorites, to trucks, to tricked out trucks, to you name it. I love
tricked out bikes, like that bikes, beautiful one you had.
I've just loved them my whole life. But I've always been very conscious of what I drove because I meet with a lot of realtors, and there is a lot of envy that goes on out there in our industry particularly. And so the last thing I ever wanted to do was pull up to some realtor meeting in some super fancy car or whatnot. And I think sometimes I don't know. I mean, this is a discussion, right? So what do you guys think? I mean, because for me, I've always been super reserved because I don't want people to envy me. Like I have this thing, Rachel, when we first met, she was always like, man, you just fly so far under the radar compared to a lot of other people I know that aren't even anywhere close to where you are career path wise or earning wise or whatever. And I'm just like, that's just not me. I don't want to flaunt or whatnot. But when it comes to like vehicles, like I said, I love cars. But I've always been very conscious about not driving certain vehicles or buying certain vehicles because I don't want people to envy me or to look at me and go like,
he makes too much money.
He makes too much money.
Yeah.
Like you got the realtor that doesn't want to work with you because you're too big or you make too much, or maybe they're just jealous of you and they don't want to. I mean, so I've always been a little conscious of that. What's your guys' opinion on that?
Well, I had, not because of anything I did, but because of the stuff I had been posting on social media, I found out down the line that I lost two sides of a deal because they just assumed I was too busy to take care of them. So being overly flashy, I think, can have a negative consequence for sure.
Yeah.
And not just in the eyes of our peers, but in the eyes of the public.
But again, I think that falls into that jealousy, that envy thing versus, again, I am the farthest thing on the planet from being any kind of saint. But one thing that I've always prided myself in is my ability to be happy for people that are successful, and especially in my friend group. And I don't think a lot of people are like that. I mean, I fortunately, God wired me to where I love people so much that I am genuinely happy when I see other people's success.
I think all three of us are the exact same. When
know?
when you or Dane are texting me, hey, I get hyped that you got closings. That makes me happy. I'm almost as happy as if it were my own. So I am literally right there with you. That seeing other people's successes, like my high school quarterback, Zach Robinson, went on to play at Oklahoma State. He was just hired as the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out Z-Rob. Like
The Dirty Birds?
The Dirty Birds. I know you hate them, but it is what it is. So like seeing other people's successes and people, especially folks that I know, even acquaintances or even just other agents online, like that stuff, I get hyped for them. So there's no, I get genuine joy from it.
I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like even if maybe something deep down, and maybe it's something you can train, right? If you're not that person, that maybe if when you do hear about somebody's success or you see some success, that maybe you can identify that, hey, I'm about to go into this place that now I'm envying this person or I'm jealous of this person, and maybe catch that. And maybe like, I don't know, flip it around. I mean, I don't know if people are able to do that. I mean, when you talk about the comparison, like earlier I used, and Gavin, if you ever watch this, dude, I'm so proud of you, man. This dude, same industry, good friend of mine, has just slayed it. And there's never been a part of me that has envied him. Have I compared myself to Gavin and said, what can I do to be more like that? What can I do to play bigger or do those things bigger? Absolutely. But I mean, honestly, when I see the success and whatnot, it genuinely makes me happy. I'm just like, dude, because you know what? Because I'm also the guy that knows how hard he works.
Yep.
I know that it wasn't just given to him. I mean, the dude works his butt off. There's a piece of me that has just mad respect for the grind, right?
Yeah.
And
I have the same kind of person. When I got into real estate at Remax Professionals at our King Carroll office, there's an agent there by the name of Eva Stottlemyre who is an absolute monster in this industry. She's, I think, #1 in the state for like the 4th year in a row. And a lot of people are intimidated by her. And I love her. She's amazing. There's never been a second where she intimidated me or anything like that. And I've never, ever been jealous of what she has, because and this could be something that those folks could do if they're falling into the comparison trap. Like when she's slaying it, I think about how awesome of a life she's providing for her kids and how the opportunities that they're going to get because of mom kicking butt. So if you're the type of person who sits there envying what somebody else is getting, try to think about the stuff that they're getting and the blessings that they're going to be able to share with their loved ones because of it.
Yeah. So I am not like you guys. This is something I definitely struggle with. When I see other agents that are super successful, I'm not going to lie, I have some envy. I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they better than me? And so this lesson was actually really good for me.
Wait, time out.
He's one of those agents.
We
were just talking about it a while ago.
That's me.
From the bottom of my heart, there's nobody better than you. You are an outstanding agent who loves your people, frankly, more than any other agent I know. So don't you ever think those words, why are they better than me? Maybe what are they doing different? What grind are they doing? What's their strategy? I don't want to ever hear you think, why are they better than me? Because there's not a damn person in this industry better than you.
Well, thank you.
You're
appreciate
welcome.
That.
I believe that too,
I don't know
man.
maybe I didn't mean to say better than me, but why are they doing better
Well,
than
the
me?
thought slipped in your head.
It did. So yeah. It's definitely a thing I struggle with. So this lesson was huge for me. Thanks for sharing this with us, because that chapter is a life changer. And then also Sean's message as well. Like, I feel like that's something I should probably watch every month just to remind myself, like, hey, maybe my purpose isn't to make $2 million a year. Maybe my purpose is to be an awesome husband. I mean, I know that's my purpose, to be an awesome husband, an awesome dad, an awesome friend. Like, I love my people. And I don't need to make $2 million to love my people. And I think one of the things I learned from R4 too, or the Remax conference last week, is all these people that are super successful, they're making $1 million a year, but you don't see behind the curtain where they're spending $700,000 to make $1 million a year. And
Or they're spending their kids' soccer practice.
Right. Or they're on,
'cause that's currency too.
they're on wife number 4. and like they're just not happy at all in their life, but they're making a ton of money. So I feel like we just need to find our purpose. We need to do our daily gratitudes.
Yep.
And that's something I'm going to start doing. I'm not good at that. I'm good at staying off social media, but I'm going to start with the gratitudes. And I think that envy part inside of me will hopefully start to go away if I do that.
So I told you guys we were going to go all over the place today, but I actually want to cover this because you talked about the guy that's been married 4 times. So the times that I have found myself, I think, envious or just questioning, right, is we all know those people in life that are maybe, I would call them not good. They're the ones that don't always do the right thing. They're the ones that are very self-absorbed. They're the ones that would sell out their mom to make a buck. I will say those are the people that when I see huge successes with them, I do find myself going, why?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like why do those people get blessed when you know that they've probably screwed over 2 or 3 guys to get that success?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. How do you not find yourself jealous or envious of those people when you try really hard to follow Jesus, do the right thing, like I always say, that camera that's on you and, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, right? And that's just who you are and how you're wired. But yet you see those people that are the opposite of that. And they're the ones that are just killing it in life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you do there?
That's a struggle for me too. I mean, or big time. I mean, there's so many people on social media that I'm acquaintances with that are like, there's not an ounce of integrity in them and they're just crushing it. And it's like, why, God? Like, you kind of get mad about it. But I think if you focus on your own race, I think that's the answer to your own happiness, is focusing on your race, whatever that person's success is, whatever. But I feel like that's a good solution for me.
Exactly what Chris said is, there's going to be bad guys that win. There always has been. There's been bad guys winning since the dawn of time, and they are going to keep winning because they take shortcuts, they screw people over, they don't care about anybody else but me, and they're going to get their wins. But at the end of the day, I am in my own race, and I can look around at the race that I have run and be proud of what I've done and happy with what I've done and excited about the future of my race, probably right now more so than any other point in my life. So the biggest key there, honestly, excuse me for cussing, but I just don't give a shit. Yeah. They're going to get theirs. It is what it is. But I live in a beautiful home with an amazing family with, outside of Kylie's diabetes, all healthy. My sons are healthy. They're happy. They're beautiful. They're fun. So if what am I trying to think of a villain? So if Darth Vader gets to win a couple times, I'm just going to keep focusing on my race and loving the people around me. And I've never really struggled with that because I just genuinely don't care.
Yeah, I think I struggle with it, but I'm going to give you guys, I was hoping one of you guys were going to come up with it, but I have figured out my secret of dealing with it, right? And my secret of dealing with it is, when you go, man, I do the right thing. I make good choices. I put most people before myself always. And the one thing that I have found that makes me deal with that envy and when I see that is, that's cool. They can have those blessings in this life, but what does it look like in the next one? The eternal life, right? Like, I feel like the people that put God first and put our true purpose, which I think for me, and I know it's for every human being that God made, is to be a disciple for him, right? Is to bring people to Jesus for eternal life. Because we just celebrated Easter and we know that that's what he did for us, right? And so I truly believe that, I know the way I've dealt with it is I look at it and go, well, that's cool, whatever. I mean, hey, good for you. But, what's the next life going to look like? And I like my odds a little better than theirs.
Yeah.
And again, it's it's not really that I should be comparing. So, I try to catch myself when I do. But, at the end of the day, it's our own race. It's how God intended us to be. And I think that, I was a sprinter, right? So 100 meter, you were dead in the water if you ever look back to see who's coming up. When the gun goes off and you're out of the blocks, all you got to do is focus on your finish line. Your lane, your finish line. Because if you're even kind of doing this and looking over your shoulder, or you hear some breaths coming behind you or whatnot, and you take your eye off the finish line, I can guarantee you it's going to slow you down 100% every single time. So, focus on your race, stay in your lane, be the best version that God made you to be. At the end of this thing, I think as far as tactics go, we talked about, when you wake up in the morning, staying off the social media first thing. I also believe that it is important to cut it out early in the evening, so you're not sitting there right before you go to bed scrolling, seeing everybody's highlight reel, and then you go to sleep with your head sitting there going, well, how come I don't have that, or whatever, right? And so I think that there's definitely things that you can do tactically to eliminate a lot of that anxiety, a lot of the things that I think steal your joy. Yeah. What's your closing thoughts on all this?
We're almost at 50 minutes. I feel like we need to just wrap it up. Is there anything else that you want to say? I'll let you go
I would
first.
say my number one takeaway from all this is the daily gratitudes, and to just every single morning and every night, now that you mentioned nighttime, is thank God for how you made me, where I am, and what you've given me. And I think everything else will just kind of fall in line.
So there it is. Run your own race. Don't focus on everybody else. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you guys for coming on this journey with us. This is Burn the Ships. No turning back.
Peace.
Cheers.
Adios, amigos.